On this day in history, we remember the remarkable individuals who shaped our world. Welcome to Who Died Today in History, where we honor their legacies. From artists to leaders, their impact lives on. If you find their stories meaningful, like, subscribe, and hit the bell to stay connected.
Thank you to all our amazing channel members for your generous support.
Rock Hudson, one of Hollywood's most beloved leading men, died on October 2, 1985, at the age of 59. His death, the result of AIDS-related complications, was both natural and tragic, as it unfolded in the midst of the devastating HIV/AIDS epidemic that defined the 1980s. For much of his career, Hudson had embodied the image of the archetypal American heartthrob, tall, handsome, and romantic, starring in classics such as Giant and lighthearted comedies opposite Doris Day. Yet, his final years revealed a striking contrast between the glamorous facade of Hollywood and the deeply human vulnerability behind it. Hudson's illness became public in 1985 when he was hospitalized in Paris while seeking experimental treatments. At the time, AIDS carried immense stigma, and discussions of sexuality in mainstream media were often muted or avoided entirely. His public acknowledgement of the disease was groundbreaking, not only because of his star status, but also because it challenged the silence and shame surrounding the epidemic. In many ways, Hudson's death reflected the cultural values and struggles of the era: fear of contagion, societal prejudice against the LGBTQ+ community, and the desperate need for compassion and medical innovation. The immediate consequences of Hudson's passing were profound. His openness about his illness made him the first major Hollywood star to publicly confront AIDS, giving the crisis a human face that the public could not ignore. Tributes poured in from colleagues, friends, and fans, while policymakers and activists cited his case as a turning point in raising awareness and funding for AIDS research. His death amplified his legend not just as a screen idol, but as an unwitting advocate who, even in his final days, shifted cultural conversations toward empathy and recognition. Hudson's legacy endures on multiple levels. His films remain staples of Hollywood's golden age, preserving the image of a charismatic and versatile performer. More importantly, his death continues to resonate as a moment when celebrity intersected with public health, forcing society to confront uncomfortable truths. In memorials, documentaries, and biographies, Hudson is remembered not only for his artistry, but for the bravery inherent in his final chapter. Ultimately, his story reveals humanity's complex relationship with mortality and memory. We tend to immortalize figures like Hudson because their lives bridge the personal and the collective, transforming individual loss into a symbol of broader struggles. Through art, remembrance, and cultural reflection, we ensure that such figures remain part of our shared history, reminders of both our fragility and our enduring capacity for change. Tom Petty, one of the most iconic figures in American rock music, died on October 2, 2017, at the age of 66. His death was ruled accidental, caused by an overdose of prescription medications, including opioids, sedatives, and painkillers. In many ways, the circumstances of his passing reflected one of the defining challenges of his era: the opioid crisis, which claimed countless lives in the United States during the early 21st century. Petty had been battling significant health issues, including a fractured hip, emphysema, and knee problems, yet he continued to tour and perform, embodying the dedication of an artist unwilling to let physical pain silence his music. The immediate consequences of Petty's death reverberated across the music world. Just days earlier, he had completed a 40th anniversary tour with his band, the Heartbreakers, celebrating a career that produced timeless songs like Fallin, American Girl, and refugee. Fans and fellow musicians were stunned, as his music had come to define a distinctly American spirit, restless, searching, and unafraid to voice defiance. Vigils, tributes, and widespread radio play underscored how deeply embedded his work was in the cultural fabric. His death amplified his legend, casting him as both a rock star and a cautionary emblem of the human toll of prescription drug dependence. Petty's passing also sparked conversations about the pressures of performance, resilience, and the cost of creative drive. Like many artists before him, he carried the burden of living up to both personal and public expectations. His untimely death highlighted how even icons who seemed larger than life were still vulnerable to the same crises afflicting everyday people. In the years since, Petty has been immortalized not only through his vast discography, but also through tributes in concerts, documentaries, and literature. His music, infused with themes of freedom, rebellion, and resilience, continues to resonate with new generations. Fans celebrate him as a troubadour of the American experience, a voice that captured both the struggle and the joy of ordinary life. Ultimately, Petty's death reveals humanity's ongoing struggle to balance ambition with fragility, power with vulnerability. We remember him not only as a musician, but as a reminder that art has the power to transcend mortality. Through his songs and the collective memory of his influence, Tom Petty remains an eternal presence, a testament to how culture transforms loss into enduring legacy. Tamara Dobson, the strikingly tall and commanding actress best known for her role as Cleopatra Jones in the 1970s blaxploitation films, passed away on October 2, 2006, at the age of 59. Her death was the result of complications from multiple sclerosis and pneumonia. The circumstances of her passing, natural but tragically premature, echoed both the health struggles that often remain hidden from the public eye and the broader societal challenges of ensuring visibility and support for women in entertainment beyond their prime. Dobson's towering presence and powerful screen roles embodied the shifting values of her era. In the 1970s, a period marked by struggles for civil rights and greater representation of African Americans and women, Dobson stood as a cultural symbol of empowerment. Playing Cleopatra Jones, a fierce government agent who battled drug cartels while exuding confidence and style, she challenged stereotypes about black women in cinema. Yet, her relatively short career in Hollywood also reflected the limitations placed on black actresses at the time, with opportunities dwindling once the blaxploitation trend faded. Her later battle with illness, largely away from the spotlight, further underlined the harsh realities of a profession that often celebrates youth and overlooks its stars as they age. The immediate consequence of Dobson's passing was a wave of retrospectives on her contribution to film, particularly her role in paving the way for more diverse portrayals of women in action roles. While she may not have been as widely remembered as other Hollywood icons, her death reignited discussion about the importance of representation in media and the cultural impact of blaxploitation cinema, a genre that, despite its controversies, opened doors for many black performers. Her legend, in some ways, was amplified by her early departure. Remembered as statuesque, bold, and uncompromising in her screen presence, Dobson has become an emblem of a unique moment in American film history. Her passing invites reflection on how society immortalizes figures who represent progress and empowerment. Through film archives, retrospectives, and scholarly discussions on race and gender in cinema, Dobson's legacy endures. Ultimately, her death reveals humanity's ongoing effort to confront mortality by preserving memory. In honoring Dobson through film festivals, literature on African American cinema, and the continued appreciation of her groundbreaking roles, we witness how culture transforms individual loss into collective remembrance. Her life and passing remind us that memory, whether through art or history, is the most powerful antidote to mortality. Harriet Nelson, best remembered as the beloved matriarch on The Adventures of Ozzie and Harriet, passed away on October 2, 1994, at the age of 85. She died of congestive heart failure, a natural end after a long life in the public eye. Her passing reflected not only the inevitability of mortality, but also the changing values of an era that had grown distant from the wholesome, idealized family life her show had come to symbolize in mid-20th century America. As the central figure of one of television's longest-running family sitcoms, 1952 to 1966, Harriet embodied the cultural aspirations of post-war America: domestic stability, cheerful motherhood, and unity in the nuclear family. Her real-life marriage to Ozzie Nelson and the inclusion of their sons, David and Ricky, blurred the line between fiction and reality, giving viewers a sense of intimacy with the Nelson family. Yet, by the time of her death in the 1990s, American television had long since shifted toward grittier, more diverse portrayals of family life. In this context, her passing became a reminder of an earlier era's idealism, where television sought to project an aspirational image of American values rather than reflect its complexities. The immediate consequence of Harriet Nelson's death was a wave of nostalgia. Media tributes highlighted her role in shaping the family sitcom genre and the comfort her show brought to audiences during the uncertain years of the Cold War. For many, her passing also carried a sense of generational loss, marking the end of a living link to the golden age of television. Her legacy, amplified by her death, endures through syndication of The Adventures of Ozzie and Harriet and scholarly discussions of television's influence on American culture. Much like Lucille Ball or June Cleaver's archetypal role in Leave It to Beaver, Harriet Nelson remains a cultural touchstone for the representation of motherhood and family in popular media. Ultimately, Harriet Nelson's death underscores humanity's complex relationship with memory and mortality. While her real life was far more nuanced than her television persona, it is through art, reruns of her show, cultural retrospectives, and biographies that she is immortalized. Her story illustrates how popular culture both preserves and reshapes memory, ensuring that even as eras change, figures like Harriet Nelson remain woven into the collective imagination. William Berger, the Austrian-born actor who made his mark in Italian cinema during the heyday of spaghetti westerns, died of natural causes on October 2, 1993, at the age of 65. His death, attributed to natural complications after years of a colorful and often turbulent life, closed the curtain on a career that reflected both the excesses and creative experimentation of post-war European film culture. Berger came of age as an actor in the 1960s and 1970s, an era when Italian cinema was booming with stylized westerns and genre films that challenged Hollywood's dominance. He became known for his roles in productions like Sabata, 1969, alongside Lee Van Cleef, where his tall, commanding presence and often menacing charm made him a standout. Off-screen, however, his life was equally dramatic. He was known for heavy drug use, and his time in prison in Italy for alleged narcotics charges nearly derailed his career. Though later cleared, the episode underscored the volatility of fame during an era when counterculture lifestyles collided with conservative institutions. The immediate consequence of his passing was muted compared to Hollywood icons of his generation, yet, within the cult cinema community, his death was deeply felt. Fans and critics looked back on his career as emblematic of the European contribution to international cinema, particularly in shaping the darker, more ambiguous anti-heroes of the spaghetti western genre. His death did not alter the trajectory of film history on a large scale, but it amplified his legend within the niche world of cult film enthusiasts, ensuring that his work would be re-examined in retrospectives and documentaries about the period. Berger's passing reflects how actors outside the Hollywood mainstream can still leave an enduring impact. His career spoke to values of artistic risk-taking and the blurring of national film identities during a time when cinema was becoming increasingly global. His personal struggles also mirrored the costs of a lifestyle lived on the edge, a reminder that creative brilliance and personal turmoil often travel hand in hand. Ultimately, William Berger's death reveals humanity's need to remember artists not only for their successes, but for their complexities. Through DVD restorations, film festivals, and fan communities, Berger has been immortalized as a symbol of European genre cinema's grit and allure. His story underscores how memory, even outside the cultural mainstream, preserves figures whose contributions continue to echo far beyond their lifetimes. Nipsey Russell, often called the Poet Laureate of television, died on October 2, 2005 in New York City at the age of 87 from cancer. His passing marked the end of a long and trailblazing career in comedy, acting, and poetry. Unlike many entertainers of his time whose deaths were sudden or scandalous, Russell's death was the quiet conclusion of a life spent opening doors for African American performers in a segregated entertainment industry. Russell first rose to prominence in the 1960s and 1970s with his sharp wit and rhyming one-liners, which became his signature. He was a frequent panelist on shows like Match Game, Hollywood Squares, and To Tell the Truth. At a time when black entertainers were often marginalized on television, Russell's quick humor, intellect, and charm allowed him to navigate the racial barriers of the era. His visibility on mainstream TV reflected a slow cultural shift toward inclusion, demonstrating how comedy could both entertain and normalize black presence in households across America. The immediate consequences of his passing were heartfelt tributes from fellow entertainers who recognized his pioneering role. While his death did not shift history in the dramatic way that the deaths of political or cultural revolutionaries did, it amplified his legend as a beloved figure in American popular culture. For many, his passing was an opportunity to reflect on the role of comedy as a form of cultural bridge building during a period of immense social change. Russell's legacy also reflects the values of his era: perseverance, creativity, and using humor as a means of survival and progress. His poetry, always delivered with warmth and cleverness, was a reminder that language and laughter could challenge stereotypes and bring people together, even in difficult times. In an entertainment world often dominated by controversy, his dignified career showed how staying true to one's art could secure lasting respect. His death invites reflection on humanity's relationship with memory and art. Through reruns, recordings, and mentions in pop culture history, Nipsey Russell is immortalized not only for his humor, but also for his role in breaking barriers. His rhymes, short, witty, and timeless, are reminders of how even brief expressions can leave echoes across generations. Ultimately, his story illustrates that power does not always come from grand gestures, but sometimes from the steady ability to make people laugh, think, and feel included. Madeleine Carroll, one of the most luminous stars of the 1930s and 1940s cinema, passed away on October 2, 1987, at the age of 81, from pancreatic cancer in Marbella, Spain. Her death was a natural one, but it marked the end of a life that had been deeply intertwined with both the glamour of Hollywood and the stark realities of global conflict. Unlike the sudden or tragic endings that often surround stars of the Golden Age, Carroll's passing carried a quieter symbolism, reflecting dignity and resilience in an era when actresses often struggled to define themselves beyond the screen. Carroll rose to international fame through Alfred Hitchcock's classic thriller, The 39 Steps, which secured her place as one of Britain's first true film exports to Hollywood. With her elegance, intelligence, and poise, she was celebrated as the most beautiful woman in the world. Yet her career trajectory shifted dramatically during World War II. After her sister was killed in the London Blitz, Carroll turned away from her film stardom to dedicate herself to humanitarian work. She volunteered for the Red Cross, worked with wounded soldiers, and later focused on children's welfare. In an industry defined by glamour and commercial success, Carroll's choice reflected the wartime values of sacrifice and service, demonstrating how tragedy could redirect fame toward compassion. The immediate consequence of her death was a wave of nostalgia and respect, particularly in Britain, where she was remembered not only as a Hitchcock heroine, but also as a symbol of wartime resilience. While she did not leave behind a filmography as vast as some of her contemporaries, her departure amplified her legend as an actress who willingly walked away from Hollywood to live a life of service and personal integrity. Her story illustrates humanity's complex relationship with mortality, fame, and memory. Carroll is immortalized through her roles, particularly in The 39 Steps, a film still celebrated as a defining moment in cinema history. But she is also remembered through the narrative of a woman who prioritized empathy over celebrity. Her death invites reflection on how we choose to commemorate figures, not merely by their art, but also by their values and actions. Through literature, film retrospectives, and historical accounts, Madeleine Carroll's image endures as a reminder that beauty and talent, when guided by conscience, can leave an impact far greater than fame alone.